Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing. This is Cypherbox, and I just want to talk about the latest news regarding Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz. Now, according to ringtv.com, both fighters have agreed to meet each other again and fight each other in the ring. The agreed date for now is March 3rd. I believe they still need to sign the contracts and work out all the details and stuff like that around it, but it looks like it's set for March 3rd. Now, I've talked a lot about this whole situation in the past. Obviously, they were supposed to meet each other on November 4th, but that fight was cancelled due to the fact that Luis Ortiz failed a drug test for banned substances which were found in high blood pressure pills he was taking. Now, I've talked about this, till I'm blue in the face. If you want to know my opinion on that whole situation, then go back over my videos, and I've done some detailed videos in terms of my opinion in regards to Luis Ortiz. Personally, I still say what I say back then. I believe Luis Ortiz should be banned from boxing for a period of time. He should have faced a suspension, a heavy fine, etc. And the WBC have decided to go against that, go on a soft approach and giving him the benefit of the doubt. Unlike the WBA, who have banned him for 12 months and removed him from their heavyweight rankings because he's failed on previous occasions for PEDs. And they said that they weren't willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, which was the right approach in my opinion, but the WBC took a soft approach as always. In regards to this fight coming up on March 4th, well, it's still a good fight. We all want to see it. Everyone still wants to see this fight. It's going to be a tough fight for both of these individuals. It's not going to be an easy fight, of course. There's a lot of there's quite a bit of a grudge between these two regards to what happened back in back in October when Luis Ortiz failed the drug test. So there's probably a bit of a dislike for one another as well, which just adds to the hype of the fight, of course. Now, the thing I kind of want to touch on is that a lot of people back then, when Ortiz failed that drug test, a lot of people were accusing Deontay Wilder of a lot of things, saying that, first of all, let's talk about the ridiculous conspiracy theories that were coming up. Were things like fans saying that Deontay Wilder, had paid off VADA, had paid off the WBC, or the WBC were protecting him, and this was all rigged so Wilder wouldn't have to face Ortiz, and Wilder was trying to duck Ortiz. He was just making it out like he wanted to fight him, etc, etc. Well, proof's in the pudding, because he's quite clearly up to fight Ortiz again now. I mean, these conspiracy theories were just ridiculous anyway. Like Wilder has that kind of money or that kind of clout to influence and pay off organisations, or to fix Luis Ortiz drug test so he would fail, and Wilder wouldn't have to fight him, etc. It was just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. But this kind of proves it now. Like I said, Wilder's up for it. He's clearly interested in getting in the ring with him again. He wanted to do it the first time round. The fight with Joshua isn't happening at this moment in time. They're nowhere near making that fight at any time soon. So this is a great option for him, and it's also a top contender in the heavyweight division. So a lot of people are going to start making excuses, I feel now. Those same people who were trying to push these conspiracy theories on are probably going to turn around and say, well, Ortiz is old and all this sort of stuff. But you weren't saying that before, but I'm sure there'll be some more excuses to come along now, and some more reasons as to downplay Wilder fighting Luis Ortiz. But deal with that as they come along. But I don't pay attention to a lot of those things, because a lot of those individuals making those comments aren't real boxing fans. They're more fanboys of certain fighters, but they don't actually watch the sport itself as a whole. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is it looks like also on ringtv.com they had an article where they stated that it looks like Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker will probably take place on March 31st, or I've also heard that it might be in early parts of April, which is great. Apparently from other articles that I've read, it looks like Joseph Parker will, the whole issue with that fight was the purse split. Now, it looks like Joseph Parker will get somewhere between 30 and 35% for that fight. And then obviously the lion's share is going to Anthony Joshua. Now, the thing I find funny about this is that there's been a lot of talk about purse splits. There's been a lot of talk about, you know, especially with Deontay Wilder. So Deontay Wilder's demanding 50-50. I don't agree with that. I don't believe Deontay Wilder deserves 50-50. I definitely believe Anthony Joshua in both fights, whether it's against Wilder or Parker, is the A side. Yeah, and he should get the lion's share. But there was a whole big, you know, fuss made about, you know, how much is Deontay Wilder worth, etc. He only makes 2 million a fight, and the other one's making 20 million. This was Eddie Hearn's argument. Well, I'm going to link the video, the link to the video in the description of this video. So go and check that out by Fight Hype TV. And in there, it's like a 2-3 minute long interview with Eddie Hearn. And Eddie Hearn himself turned around and said that he believes Deontay Wilder brings more to the table in terms of revenue, because he's from the US, of course, the US market, than Joseph Parker, which is true. You know, in the US, you've got millions of people, you know, they've got what, over 350, 360 million people living over there. It's a bigger market than it is in New Zealand. So the market's a lot bigger. He brings a bigger market than Joseph Parker does from a business point of view, which I agree, totally agree with that. But the funny thing is, they were talking about percentages. That in the past we've heard so many percentages that, oh, Wilder shouldn't get this much, Wilder should get 5 million or 10 million, etc. Well, look at it this way. If we're talking about it from a percentage point of view, if Joseph Parker is going to get now between, and I did say I think Joseph Parker will settle for 30% and Eddie Hearn would settle for 30%, and it looks like it might be, you know, somewhere around that figure. If Joseph Parker's going to get somewhere between 30 to 35%, how much is Deontay Wilder worth if he brings more to the table from a revenue point of view? Surely Deontay Wilder's then at least worth 40%. You know, you can't turn around and go on camera and say Deontay Wilder brings more to the table from a revenue point of view, from a promotional point of view, than Joseph Parker, then go and pay Joseph Parker between 30 and 35% to fight Anthony Joshua, and still tell Wilder, oh, you know, yeah, you know, your request or your demands are ridiculous. Now, 50-50 is ridiculous. I do agree with that, because like I said, AJ, in my opinion, is the A side. There's no doubt about that. But if Joseph Parker's getting somewhere between 30 and 35%, I think Deontay Wilder should be at least getting somewhere between 35 and 40%. You know, so in my opinion, you know, this keeps happening. Eddie Hearn keeps going on interviews and interviewing, and he doesn't remember what he's saying. He really doesn't remember what he's saying from one interview to the next interview. You know, he keeps saying different things and contradicting himself all the time, and that's one of those situations where I'll say he was contradicting himself. And he did it in the video himself. If you watch the video, you'll know what I'm on about, and I'm going to link it in the description of this video so you can have a look at it yourself. But in my opinion, if Joseph Parker's getting 30 to 35% for this fight, for a fight against Joshua in end of March, early April, then Deontay Wilder, if he gets past Luis Ortiz in March, he's fought a credible top contender, heavyweight contender there in Luis Ortiz. He's then at least worth, you know, 35 to 40% in terms of the purse split. That's just my opinion. And I don't care what anyone else out there says about this. The fact is that Eddie Hearn has come out of Eddie Hearn's mouth himself. It's on video. I even put it up on my Instagram. Yeah, so go and have a look at it if you want. And he said it himself. You know, Wilder brings more to the table than Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker, it looks like he's going to get between 30 and 35%, which means Wilder is at least entitled to between 35 and 40%, in my opinion. Okay, that's my opinion on the whole situation. I'm sure it's going to unfold a bit more, and as it does happen, I will do more videos. Sorry that I haven't done a lot of videos recently. Been really busy at work over the Christmas period and New Year period, etc. For all of those who celebrated Christmas, I hope you had a great Christmas with your families, and obviously all of you guys going out to celebrate tonight, New Year's. Wishing you a great New Year. And a prosperous new year. And as always, guys, like, share and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.